what are you even doing?
And how has the Taliban impacted your life or your family's life?
So I'm born and raised in Peshawar, and at one point Peshawar was the most dangerous city in the world.
Oh wow, the world.
The world. We saw suicide bomb blasts every day, literally every day. And it sort of desensitized us, because every 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. when we used to turn on the TV to watch the news, we'd see a news like, there was a bomb blast, 10 people died, 13 people died, 50 people died. And it came to a point where these numbers, these people who were dying, they just became numbers. We were desensitized to that to such a big extent. I'm just realizing that all of this, now, there were many times where I either just crossed one place and there was a bomb blast there, or I was going there and there was a bomb blast there. And it's been many times that, if I'm sitting right here, there's a huge, boom, and I hear the windows rattling. And then I realize that, there was a bomb blast like just a kilometer away. My own brother, he was a survivor of a suicide bomb blast in Islamabad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could you tell me more? What happened?
So he works for the UN, and he was working for WFP at that time, and there was a suicide bomb blast in the WFP's country office in Islamabad. And he was in there. Luckily, we're very grateful for that. He was safe. He only got minor injuries. And he was the one who basically identified the suicide bomber in that in that bomb.
How does he recall that experience?
So I haven't talked to him much about this, but he only remembers like a few instances where he said that I was sitting in my office and then suddenly there was this huge blast and there was just smoke and debris all over. And like you can't even hear anything. Like if there's such a big blast, like your hearing stops working for a few minutes. Then once everything settled, he just tried to get out of there. He found a few of his colleagues over there who he just sort of just pushed out. And then he told me once that there were a few other of his colleagues who unfortunately couldn't make it. And it's always a tough experience.
Yeah, that must really, because you mentioned that you were desensitized from it, but I think maybe experiencing it just hits you really in the face.
Must be so traumatizing.
It does. Yeah, it is.
And did you ever come to any close calls, or you're walking and you see something?
So I would say maybe like in a kilometer's distance. That was probably the closest I've been. Yeah.
How big are these bomb blasts? Like, do they have the same bombs, the
No,
same technology?
they don't have the same caliber or same technology or same scale. Some are smaller, some are way bigger. Up to even 300 people have died in a single bomb blast.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where was that?
That was in my city, in Peshawar.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had this fear. Well, you said you were desensitized to it all, but surely you just had this fear of every day.
Of course you do. You cannot go to mosques because mosques were being targeted.
What?
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying that, any sane person doesn't believe that the Taliban are even Islamic in any
mosques
sense.
were actually targeted by bomb blasts?
Most of the bomb blasts were carried out in mosques.
Well, how can someone explain the logic behind that?
I can't.
So sad.
You're asking the wrong person.
But what's the purpose behind that? Why would they?
So they would say
target?
that this tiny faction is un-Islamic because they're not doing exactly what we're doing. So they're un-Islamic.
Are they both Shia? Sunni?
But sometimes they were Sunni, sometimes they were Shia, sometimes they were like another small sect within Sunnis who would just maybe just pray a bit differently or have very minor differences. They're like, you're not Muslim enough, so I'm going to blow you up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is the Taliban one entity, or are they fragmented?
They are fragmented. They have multiple groups. So what happens? It's very similar to like warlords. So whoever gains more power, whoever has more men, whoever has more ammunition, they create their own group. Uh, yeah, it's pretty fragmented.
Mm. So what about the group that is in control now of Afghanistan? Are they fragmented or is it just one powerful group?
So it's been a while since they're in power, and in the start they were pretty fragmented to the point where they couldn't establish a government. There were changes in their government literally every other week. Now they have sort of stabilized to some extent.